Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, Minister Sonowal has put the right perspective on the kind of huge plans that the government has to take India's shipping as well as the shipbuilding industry forward. We have just heard how the government has set up the Maritime Development Fund of 25,000 crore, as well as the various plans to boost the maritime infrastructure in this country. So now we are taking the discussions a little ahead. And to do this, we have got two eminent panelists. We have Mr. P.L. Haranadh, who is the chairman of the Paradip Port Trust, and Dr. Madhaiyaan Angamuthu, chairperson of the Vishakhapatnam port. So my first question is to Mr. Haranadh. Building a very strong maritime ecosystem is the need of the hour. How is the government planning to meet the capacity needs of the region? We just heard certain points being raised by Mr. Sonowal. To take it a little ahead, especially in the southern region and the eastern region, what is the action plan that you have for 2030? We could start there.
Thank you so much. First of all, I express my sincere thanks to India Today for organizing this conclave, so inviting both of us. Already we have heard the Honorable Minister for Port Shipping and Waterways. He has outlined the efforts of the government for making the India a maritime powerhouse by 2047. Today, if you see that the Indian port capacity, whether it is a major ports are normally the ports under government control, and non-major ports are the private ports. Major and non-major ports put together is about 2.7 billion tons. We handle a cargo of about 1.6 billion tons. But in the next 5 years, as the economy grows, we are expected to become, we are the rapidly transforming economy, we are expected to become the third largest economy by 2030, even before that. The maritime growth also happens 1.1 to 1.5x of the GDP growth rate. That means it grows faster than the GDP growth. So this 1.6 billion tons we are carrying through our ports now is expected to reach almost about 2.2 to 2.4 billion tons by 2030. It will go further by 2047. So first thing what we have to do is we have to expand the capacity, because unless the capacity of the ports are expanded, the vessels will come and wait for the berths. So vessels should not wait for the berths. In fact, the berths should wait for the vessels. So that's why this 2.7 billion ton capacity which is existing as on date, out of which is 1.6 is the major port and 1.1 is the non-major ports, is expected to go up to 3.5 billion tons, either by mechanization, the modernization, or the new ports creation, like Madhaiyaan is being created, Galathia Bay is being created, new ports, major ports are coming, number of private ports are coming. And within the major ports, we are also going for a PPP models and expanding the capacity through mechanization. Capacity can be expanded either by new ports or by expanding the old ports, or by mechanization and modernization of the existing terminal itself, the capacity can be increased. All the methods are being followed, and it is going up to 3.5 billion tons by 2030, which will be expected to go to almost about 10 billion tons by 2047. Honorable Prime Minister has already announced this in the Global Maritime India Summit at Mumbai a year back, because we are expecting that the cargo will go up to almost 6.7 billion tons by 2047. So normally the ports operate at 70% of the capacity. That means if the capacity utilization goes beyond 70%, the vessels, huge congestion will happen. So we should always have a 30% cushion. Taking that 30% cushion, we have planned the expansion. All the ports like Vishakhapatnam port, Paradip port, almost all the ports, both East Coast and West Coast, are expanding themselves to accommodate the potential trade that is being offered by the market by 2030.
Okay. So I think I'll take a word or two from Dr. Angamuthu on this. There is no doubt that the maritime trade is extremely crucial for India to expand, to enhance its position in the global value chain. How do you see the overall plans of the center, especially with specific reference to Vizag port, and it was mentioned by the minister himself, that you have emerged as the largest handler of cargo in the country. So some specifics from you on that.
Thank you, Mr. Arun. I just want to compliment Team India Today for this wonderful event. And I just want to supplement whatever facts stated by my Honorable Minister and my colleague, Mr. Haranadh ji. What I want to say, the topic in which we are discussing today, it's very interesting. Making ports future ready, fueling the USD 10 trillion Indian dream. I just want to say, do we ready at all? Yes, we are ready. As far as port infrastructure is concerned, we are in a good position to handle the vision of the so-called 10 trillion USD, and we have an excellent infrastructure to take care of it. As Anna sir was telling, close to 70% of the capacity we are handling. With the future expansion, ports like Madhaiyaan and few more mega ports in south and eastern sector, we can handle. And 70% of our berth, all our terminals, you can say, it's being operated by private operators. So that is also again another silver lining. But here, one context I want to say, as far as port infrastructure and port capacity is concerned, we are fully ready. But to complement this infrastructure, we need two more sectors we need to give importance. That is shipbuilding, ship repairing, and the third point is ship recycling. And to take care of all those things, we need to have an excellent ecosystem wherein maritime skill development. So that is where, we are somewhere, we need to address this issue. Maritime skill development is also one of the sector wherein we need to improve. So with this context, with the existing, we have a Maritime India Vision of 2030, and we have a Maritime Vision for, consonanting with our Vikshit Bharat Initiative 2047. So coupled with all those things, we can touch this 10 trillion USD dream. That is almost possible.
Great. I want to come to Mr. Haranadh. There is we have mentioned shipbuilding. In fact, the minister also touched upon this. In fact, the center has the shipbuilding mission, which aims to create a robust shipbuilding industry by 2047. And again, the driver is going to be the Make in India. The minister mentioned the shipbuilding clusters that are being planned and how certain Japanese and Korean companies have already expressed interest. Could you throw some light on some of the work that is being done on this front?
Yeah, shipbuilding is really a huge potential market which is available. It is a $150 billion global market as on date available. And 64 million gross ton is the capacity available in the world. So as on date, the India's capacity is only 0.1 million gross tons. So there is a huge possibility for improving our capacity. So the Maritime India Vision points that we should become top 10, one of the top 10 nations, and by 2030, and the top 5 nations, we should crack into top 5 by 2047. So it is more important because if you see the Indian fleet of the vessels, 45% of the Indian fleet vessels have already crossed 20 years of age. 20 years is the lifespan. Then another about 10, 20%, 20% is approximately 15 to 20 years range. So that means around 60% of the Indian fleet have to be replaced after 5 years. So of course 40 has to be replaced immediately. So there is a huge potential. Instead of depending on the foreign countries, if you can develop shipbuilding in India, there is a market is there. And Paradip, there are 4 clusters are being developed, out of which Paradip is one of the cluster in Orissa. And we plan to develop a shipbuilding center north of Mahanadi. The huge tracts of land, government land is available. Already government of Orissa and Paradip port and Minister of Port Shipping and Waterways coming together and then finalizing the DPR. Once the DPR is finalized, we will go for expression of interest on that.
Dr. Angamuthu, maybe you can take it a little forward, this whole aspect of shipbuilding. One of the things that the greenfield projects face, in fact, we saw this in the first session, we heard it from the speakers, has been the big challenges, especially on issues like land acquisition. How do you bring in more private parties interested in taking up some of these projects? Maybe you could give your views on that, and then we'll go on to some other specifics.
That's true. Even Government of Andhra Pradesh and Government of India, they intend to develop Andhra as a shipbuilding cluster. So we are engaging an institution called RITES to prepare our DPR to develop two clusters. One is a place called Mulapeta in Srikakulam district. The another one is called Vishakhapatnam, closer to Tirupati Nellore belt. So we intend to shut up a shipbuilding and ship recycling center along with the mega port somewhere in Mulapeta. As you know, the financing in this sector is little, I'll not say it's tight, but it's a kind of a sunrise sector. So the way it evolved in European and our East Asian countries, it's not yet developed in country like India. Even in shipbuilding, we are only with the Atmanirbhar initiatives. We started making ships and started taking care of this industry to next level. So this financial status in kind of rudimentary shape. Maybe government thought that this sector will need a further fillip. That's why in the last budget they announced there's a maritime development fund, especially to take care of this all the shortcomings and all. So this 25,000 crore what was announced in the last budget, it will complement that effort. And our people are doing extremely well. Some of our industrialists, they are doing work, they are setting up their industry and all elsewhere in the country like Singapore, Philippines and all. But probably this ecosystem will bring them back to India and they will going to do better work in the days to come, right?
Maybe you can also touch upon some of the success factors that contributed in the first 3 quarters of the current financial year. Your port has handled over 60 MMT of cargo. So maybe it would be a good experience, to share what are the factors that made this happen.
Actually, I have a capacity to handle around 142 million metric tons of cargo. Last year we touched around 82. So what Mr. Haranadh was telling, close to 65 to 70%. It's a generic level wherein almost all Indian ports are doing only that much. 65 to 70% is the capacity we achieve. So 30 to 40% we can again, that is a dream to be filled. And what we are doing in our port, I just want to give a rough figure. In general, if you take Indian context, total trade volume almost 95% by volume and 65 to 70% by value. We are handling all the exim cargo, right? Out of that, around 45% export, 55% will be import. I feel that 45-50 should be reverse. And in the 45-50, when you reverse also, we in Indian context, like our Honorable Prime Minister stated, why to send our raw material to elsewhere and bring back finished product? So most of our Indian ports, we tend to handle like my 1/3 of volume is iron ore. Iron ore coming from Chhattisgarh and Orissa and going to China and coming back in the form of steel or finished product, right? So now there is government like pushing under Atmanirbhar Bharat to come up with a finished product. So there is a reduction in volume, but there is an increase in value. Value proposition, there is an increase, right? And same case with, other product like agriculture or horticulture or, other engineering product. So we tend to give, raw material only. So whereas the finished products are coming from elsewhere, like classic case, basmati rice we send in bulk or in container form. In Dubai or Middle East, they will make it in 5 kg, 1 kg, 10 kg, and they sell it, Middle East or else, Europe and all. So the reverse change is happening because of this Atmanirbhar Bharat, and because of that, there is a slight, reduction in volume as such, but value we are improving. So that's why, we are trying to catch finished product, trying to get some, engineering goods. So it will be in the form of export, so that, like we will get a, otherwise what happened? There is a cannibalization of, our cargo. See, hinterland is same, products are same. I am also competing, Paradip also competing, Gangavaram also competing, See, unless otherwise, you change this narrative and bring some new cargo and a finished product and making, like something, volume instead of volume, value-based proposition, it will not be a good for our Indian economy. So that is what happening now.
Okay, very interesting. Mr. Haranadh, are there some innovations like these that you are experimenting, because you also have been setting record after record in terms of cargo turnover?
Yeah, Paradip Port for the last 2 years, and we are contributing almost 25% of the total incremental cargo of Indian major ports, one port. So last year we have become the #1 cargo handling port for the first time of its 67 years and in the country by clocking 145 million tons. This year we may be touching, we will be the first major port to touch 150 million tons. So the most important thing, we have 3-4 points which I will say. One is the capacity augmentation. So we increased the capacity sufficiently. Of course, it is never it will be sufficient. Keep on, we have to continuously exercise. And the mechanization has taken a big important place in our entire efforts. Second thing is the business development initiatives. Now we will say that the customers, we are approaching to customers and with a long-term contracts, and where they will feel comfortable having trade with us. And we are giving concessions on the volumes also. And second thing is ease of doing business. The customers should not come to us, they should sit in their AC offices and do that business with us, rather than going to pillar and post and collecting the different certificates, submitting to us. So we have gone up, of course, in the national logistic portal Marine, which has been implemented among all the ports. It has improved the ease of doing business. It is giving a single window platform for the maritime players to do business with the ports. So these are some of the areas which are working, and then we are also going for a cargo diversification in a big way. We are not a container port. Traditionally, the Paradip port was handling the bulk cargoes. Now we have gone for a cargo diversification. We are attracting containers in a big way, and with the government of Vishakhapatnam, we sat together, and then we have finalized a VGF scheme for those container liners who are coming to Paradip. We are giving VGF. So such kind of developmental, business development initiatives have been taken up by the port, which is yielding the results.
Great. I wanted to turn the attention of both of you towards some of the challenges that the port sector is facing, including financial sustainability, the high cost of dredging, restrictions on handling certain commodities, then the other competition, etc., etc. Maybe we can start with Dr. Angamuthu. Especially when it comes to the finances. I mean, we have discussed it in an earlier session also. Can you identify some of the major issues and how we can sort of, negotiate around these?
In fact, as far as maritime financing is concerned, as I mentioned, when you compare with other countries, we just started evolving, right? And as far as projects are concerned, our people, our investment is really good, excellent. So to develop a berth or a terminal, you need around 100 crore plus to take care of medium-term infrastructure, and another 150 to 200 crore for long-term, futuristic end-to-end infrastructure. So roughly around, 200 to 250 crore you can invest for each and every berth to develop a terminal. So our, like in Vizag port, close to 80% of our terminals are privatized. So that means there is a availability of fund, and our banks are intent to support, and they are supporting. And as far as participation of private sector is concerned, they are willing, more than willing. Even if you are intent to go for some like some kind of a bidding and all, the people who are ready to compete and they want to offer us best of the solution, whatever available in the world, and we can benchmark our thing. Like you mentioned about Vizag performance, when last year World Bank surveyed our container port, we got 18th rank globally. And that 18th rank because of our key performance indicator, and there was an excellent participation of various stakeholders who are part and parcel of this port ecosystem. So they all participated and we got a good rank. And the government also complementing various initiatives. I don't foresee any kind of issue in terms of finance. But only thing what Haranadh sir was telling, we need to compete. Of course, every port, they intend to, compete and take, because we are, focusing on, same kind of cargo from same region, whereas the time has come, we have to diversify our interest, and we have to bring new cargoes from different areas, different locations. So that will be, kind of a added value for our, port ecosystem. And we need to compete with, other competing countries also, like shipbuilding, ship repairing and all. Colombo is doing good, Dubai is doing good, Singapore and all, they are doing good. Now with all this ecosystem, we can also compete. Because being such a large country, so we are not into, honestly speaking, shipbuilding, ship repairing sector. So probably the time has come, we are going to compete. So if you take the maritime sector, one is the port-related infrastructure, the another one is shipbuilding, then ship repairing, ship recycling, and to take care of all the 4 sector, maritime capacity building. Last 3 sector, we are evolving. The first sector, we are already in excellent shape. We have excellent infrastructure. And with these things, we will be a global player in the days to come. Thank you.
Mr. Haranadh, in fact, Dr. Angamuthu talked about the competition that you have from neighboring countries like Sri Lanka, China, etc. We have a transshipment port that is coming up in Vizhinjam, which is supposed to give a big competition to some of these other players that are already there. I would like to have your views on, how do we make some of our ports that are already existing. We have the strength, we have the capacity, but how do we scale them up to reach those, international levels and handle and attract cargo even from some of those neighboring regions?
Yeah, competition is a good thing. Actually, without competition, we will never grow, and the best of our efficiencies cannot come out. So we must promote competition. In India, the productivity as well as the service has improved because of competition only, because of competition not only among the major ports, but also competition between the major ports and the private ports. So as far as transshipment is concerned, now the bulk of the transshipment happens, say there is Colombo or Singapore, Indian transshipment, and basically the entire feeder containers come from the India's hinterland only. Now with this Vizhinjam, as well as the Galathea Bay, the Honorable Minister has already told in his speech, the Galathea Bay is coming up, which is very close to the Malacca Strait. Straight away it can hit the Singapore's cargo if we can be able to provide a similar kind of ecosystem. What the customer will look for it is, so what is the level of efficiency, mechanization, ease of doing business, and then the tariff. These are the 4 or 5 issues only the customer will look for it. So in this competitive world, if you can take care of these 4 or 5 issues, definitely Singapore doesn't have any cargo of its hinterland. Everything is a transshipped cargo. So when the transshipment comes from India, not only India, Myanmar, Bangladesh, all these things can be trapped by the Galathea Bay if you can provide a better ecosystem. Similarly, Vizhinjam can act a similar purpose on the west coast also. So there is a huge scope. So far, we have not concentrated on the transshipment cargo. For the last 10 years, one by one steps are taking up, out of which capturing this transshipment cargo is one of our important objectives. So accordingly, the steps are being taken up.
So what kind of incremental steps would you need in an existing port like yours to transform into the transshipment facility?
So we are a gateway port. For example, Paradip, in fact, Vizag, Haldia, these are gateway ports where enough cargo is available to offer to directly to the shipping lines. Transshipment ports, because the vessels which come to these ports are smaller in size, that's why transshipment is required. Agar mainland vessels directly can come to Vishakhapatnam or Chennai or to Paradip, transshipment is not required. So now what we are trying is, on the east coast, the Galathea is one place where the cargo can be aggregated, and which is very close to the international sea route and the Malacca Strait. So that can act as a transshipment for entire cargo, not only from the east coast of India, but also from Bangladesh, Myanmar, and Thailand, other countries also. So it can act as a transshipment hub for the entire this cargo. And this Galathea is coming up in 2 phases very fast.
Excellent. Now I think we are coming to a close of time. We have time for one more question maybe. I would take it to Dr. Angamuthu. How would you, come around some of these operational shortcomings? We just talked about, competition from overseas and taking our ports to a certain level. And also, as you rightly said, you need to train people. I mean, the skill is important. It is a big employer. I mean, for our youth. So, keeping these things in mind, if you're looking at the next, say, 20-25 years, what is the kind of steps that ports like yours need to take? Maybe I think both of you gentlemen can take up that question.
I fully appreciate the point stated by you. Like Vizag, we have a maritime skill development center to do ideation and capacity building for needy people, and we also sponsor. Per year, we intend to sponsor close to 5,000 people per candidate in a different sector related with maritime. Because we found employment rate in the sector is close to 95% and above. Because in general, ships are made in East or Nordic countries, registered somewhere in some Central American countries and playing all over the world. So whereas the crew, the operating crew and the operating people are from India and the Philippines. And our people have excellent advantage to handle this all the like a support system. So we will definitely fit into this ecosystem. So we have with the government is announced good number of schemes. So this like a skill development will definitely grow more and better. And I just want to say, like Sir was telling about this dedicated shipping service lines. Recent our budget introduced, there is a concept called like Bharat shipping service lines. So that concept also going to improve and it is going to give us advantage.
Final word from you, Mr. Haranadh, on this?
On this issue, skill development, we have a Indian Maritime University is there and headquartered at Chennai. It has a number of sub-centers. And also each and every port is also working on the skill development, because the skills are the more important things to improve the efficiency as well as the safety also of operations. So this is the topmost of our agendas, and then the government is working very hard to improve the skills and ensure that the ports are a better, safer as well as the efficient working environment is provided at the ports.
So with this, we have come to the end of this session, and thank you both gentlemen for your excellent views on this. Big round of applause to Dr. Angamuthu and Mr. Haranadh.